So, you want to learn about the end times, huh? And you're looking for maybe a few more niche views into some of the particular perks that the end times offers. Well, I'm Petey the Power Dragon, and today I'm going to show you some of the most interesting parts of the end times, specifically sub-faction unique units. That's right, the end times has added a wealth of these, and most if not all sub-factions have unique little tweaks that they can use and specialized, well, specialties. So let's hop straight into it. I'm going to go through each of these factions on the multiplayer select screen and show you all their various units and what kind of role they might play on the battlefield. So, starting out with Bretonnia, what you should first probably understand is that I'm going to be ignoring the added units by the end times basically. This goes for stuff like sergeants or arbalists, for instance. I'll kind of notice this as I go through. Starting off with one of the most unique sub-factions, we have Bordello. One of the first things you notice are these suckers, Borders. Now, Borders have 78 melee attack and cause fear. They're an incredibly powerful unit on the battlefield, mostly due to just how freaking good they are at cutting down undead and swarming units. Their AP is definitely no joke, coming in at an incredible 12, hitting harder than quite a few other units around their class. For some perspective, Halberdiers at Arms have 18. These guys are absolutely nasty blenders and are very effective. The slightly more expensive version of them are the Knights of Manan, far more balanced in their stats with immune to psych and expert charge defense. These guys, while they may not have the raw damage output on their face and have less numbers than the Borders, are far better armored and have better melee defense. So think of them as an elite reinforcer unit. But these guys kind of help to encapture the sheer versatility that Bordello can give you with its sub-faction units, the Marines. Now, when you think of Marines, do you think incredibly powerful archers with balanced stat lines, great range, and amazing missile strength? If you said yes, you basically have this unit. 775 gold and an absolute powerhouse to boot. Think of these guys as skirmishers, flankers, and great to be used on the front lines to shoot a few arrows in before charging in. And one of my favorite all-time cavalry units, Manan's Chosen. These perfect vigor Pegasus Knights basically take that to a whole new level. You see, not only do they have charges home like all other Pegasus Knights, and a pretty balanced stat line to boot, if not for a bit more melee defense in exchange for pure weapon strength, and a few less models, these guys have bound spells. Some seriously good bound spells. Ronin's Thunderbolt and Tide Call. Great for flying around, debuffing, and disrupting unit formations, and an absolute blast to watch. You guys will probably see these a lot in screenshots. Carcassonne! Whew. Alright. Grail Pilgrims. These guys are basically a slightly better version of the peasants in application, but with a whole lot more armor. So think of them like cheaper battle pilgrims with a slightly less balanced stat line. They still have pretty good armor for their general price, and are, well, quite the swarm unit at 160 models. Expect to be able to utilize these guys in practically a simple reinforcement role on the front line, sending them in or flanking. Now, for the Chevaliers de Lyonese! We have quite a few and quite a bit of fun. So, the basic Chevaliers, the Chevaliers on foot. These guys are basically the closest that Bretonnia gets to an elite AP foot soldier. Now, think of them like an anti-infantry version of the Beast Slayers of Baston, but with a few less models and the added bonus of being unbreakable and having courage. As you can see, they have an absolute monstrous stat line and really good armor to boot. The Chevaliers are a similar version of them, but applied to mounted warfare. High melee attack values, leadership, and speed, as well as good melee defense and a great 40 charge bonus. But where these guys start to hit home is their strong vigor, charges home, and unbreakable. These are some of the best anti-undead units Bretonnian has to offer, whether that be severe nutcrackers or absolutely fantastic anti-undead cavalry forces. Oh boy, blessed dread, how I love you so. These are some of the most fun, yet also most difficult units to utilize. Now, the Creeping Dread are like a severely advanced version of Greatsword Shades, but they have something special up their sleeve. You see, not only do they have murderous prowess, immune to psych, and causes fear, but they also have chain breakers. Now, if that wasn't, on its own, a bit crazy with chain breakers, in terms of the engaged in melee immune to psych, these guys, if they are in melee for long enough, can summon in a Charybdis. Yeah, an unchained Charybdis. They are absolutely amazing, freeing the monsters of the caged ship of the Blessed Dread. Mama Marathi, on the other hand, is a bit more interesting and a bit more Slaneshi cultists. The Warriors of Shornal are a very unique Dark Elf unit, bringing a bit more armor and that kind of Chaos Warrior punch you like to see, but with a Slaneshi theme. See, Warriors of Shornal come equipped with the Mark of Slanesh, giving them an incredible speed boost and minus 40% armor, but in exchange for a bit more melee defense and immune to psych, as well as perfect vigor. These guys, with the immune to psych, are not only a great counter against the undead, but also with their strong vigor and immune to psych, but are just all around fan-friggin-tastic with these units, with these stats. Hag Grief. Now, while poor Malice has been buffed significantly in the end times, some of his most unique stuff comes from his Cold Ones now. Cold One Riders are like a severe shock heavy version of Dark Riders, being far more focused on their tankiness as well as just general improvement. They're a lot cheaper than Cold One Knights and Cold One Dread Knights, but have a significant lack of skill in the compartment. But for cavalry, with 30 charge bonus, fear, hiding in forest, and great melee attack and melee defense values, they're a very difficult unit not to exit home with. Blades of the Tyrant. Whew, these guys are great. Now, have you ever wanted to have Malice roll through with the armies of Cold One Cavalry? These are your guys to do it with, because of this lovely ability. They are unbreakable unless your lord has died or routed, and they have Guardian, essentially making these guys the ultimate bodyguard cavalry unit. Now, be warned, if Malice is alongside them and becomes Zarkan, he is no longer a lord, and thus this ability will disactivate. Harganeth. These guys have made me more than a fair share of my ever-chosen title, the Spears of Cain. Now, what's immediately noticed about them is, while they do have a bit of physical resistance, that whole 5 armor. They're an incredibly fast version of the Brides of Cain, but they have more melee defense and a generally better balanced stat line, and of course, that incredible Madness of Cain effect. Dawizar. Now, have you ever thought, dwarfs, they are natural sprinters, very dangerous over short distances. Well, allow me to introduce you to the Storm Wardens, a powerful ambush unit from the dwarves, and with a 44 speed, help to really show their true natural sprinting prowess. These guys have Vanguard deployment and a lot of AP and melee attack to boot, so expect for them to be quite the terror if you're going for an armor-focused army and the dwarves happen to pick them up. Clan Engrund and the Reckoning of the True King. These guys, whew. Have you ever thought to yourself, man, I'd really like to have a nice elite magic attacks unit with the dwarves, with bonus versus infantry, armor piercing, expert charge defense, and immune to psych? Well, these guys have come in and they've come in hard to reclaim the 8 peaks, and they are taking no prisoners. Karakadrin has by far one of the fan favorites, Gromriddle picks. Gromriddle war picks are just nasty. Not only do they have Death Blow as a member of Clan Karakadrin, my apologies, but their incredibly powerful missile attacks are really nothing to slouch at. Because shrapnel explodes in the end times, well, I'll just let that speak for itself with a 38 base explosive damage and flaming attacks, plus 85 melee attack and majority AP. These guys are nasty, and they make some of the loudest, most epic sounds you will ever get out of an explosion in this game. Now, as for the Empire, there isn't an incredibly large amount to acknowledge with these guys. Now, while you will see a few new units, there are a few that I want to highlight. The Longshanks. The Longshanks are similar to Marines, but better, in terms of how good they are. Immune to Psych, an incredible melee stat line with up to 85 melee defense and 65 melee attack, 67 missile strength and 160 range. These are nothing to slouch at, and can be an incredible force on the battlefield when you just opening fire. Now, sorry, that's not a unique unit. Midland. Ulrich has come out and he's come out strong. These guys are nutcrackers in the truest form. Everything from charges home and immune to psychology, the Ulrican Templars and the Knights of the White Wolf bring that kind of beautiful winged hussar charge to the Empire, cracking through armor like a hot knife through butter. Alas, Broken Axe, Evi Protas. Now these guys are also part of Skarsnik's Crooked Moon, but are an incredibly balanced unit of goblins. Think of them serving a similar role to like Biggin's Spears, or a far cheaper, far less effective unit of Black Orcs. But what helps for them is they're only 600 gold, and they're far better defenders. Very hold-the-liney goblins. Bloody Ange, Warjag's boys. If you hang around Is the God stream on Twitch, which I recommend you do, it's hard to not love Warjag's boys. Having attuned to magic, guardian, and quite a bit of physical resistance, these guys are just great. Ironically enough, that attuned to magic though does mean that when used alongside Warzag, they can be less than effective. But that's the price you pay, you know? Alright, I am going to briefly check the high elves units. I believe, there we go, Kelson Hawks. Now, these are a unique Wood Elf unit, but they're actually given to Avalorn as well. As you can probably tell from their stat line, these guys are just really good Lothern Seaguard, with majority AP, 75 melee attack, and 82 missile strength. Elite Wood Elven archers brought to the High Elf archer range, they can really make people shudder. Ivres. The Ivres Rangers are really fun as an ambushing unit. 200 range, great melee attack, and fantastic stats. These guys are a really good ambusher, even though they only have Hide and Forest, and have Grim Discipline alongside Eltharion. A nice vanguard unit, but don't be deceived by their expert charge defense and Grim Discipline. 35 armor and 80 models doesn't mean they're the tankiest in the box, so make sure they aren't taking head-on charges, cause they really won't have a good time. Lizardmen actually have no unique units, and through Norska and Wintertooth, neither of them do as well. Skeggy is a singular faction, but now we get on to Skaven. Now, the Red Guard. Queek's elite bodyguard unit is crazy, with Verminous Valor and Guardian. As well as immune to psychology, these guys are fantastic with the Big Mama Queek himself, and are no slouch in any circumstance. So, oh, also, just admire those stats. Just, mwah, amazing. I'm going to turn down my music volume a little bit. My apologies if it's been drowning over my voice. Alright. I hope that's a bit better for everybody, and you can hear me more clearly. Clan Eshin. The Paw of Eshin has to be one of my favorite. Now, Paw's Reach releases a miniature Eshin assassin onto the battlefield, with a unique debuff being marked by Eshin for death. And obviously, these guys come with the similar abilities of being frickin' Eshin triads. You can see there, me comparing their stats to normal Eshin triads, and just how much better they are. Of course, having Frenzy and a pretty high physical resistance too. Well, I say pretty high. 30% is quite high, but not to be neglecting their 20 armor or 80 unit size. But these guys, if you're ever thinking about bringing an assassin and Eshin triads, don't. These guys do their job and then some. And also look really cool doing it. Possibly some of the fan favorites. Bubonic Sensors, as well as Pox Vermin. So, Pox Vermin are an incredibly tanky unit. They have Heralds of Decay, making enemies a bit quicker to try and kill them, but also lowering their vigor and speed, and disgusting growth, as well as fear and poison. With that DOT, these guys are built for a drag-it-out fight, and are absolutely great doing it. Now, have you ever said to yourself, man, Skaven just aren't glass cannony enough. I want a 1250 gold unit that's just a complete glass cannon. Well, let me tell ya, Poison Wind, magic attacks, and 90 melee attack are knocking on your door. A regenerating unit of Plague Monks with Frenzy and Unbreakable, these guys are an incredible blast to use, and one of my personal favorites on the cast. With their 90 melee attack and 70 charge bonus, off the charge, it's just a simple 160 melee attack. That's pretty dang good, if I do say so myself. Rictus Clan Nest and their Death Vermin. Death Vermin are a more balanced and defensive version of the Red Guard. They still have Guardian, but don't have Verminous Valor, and have traded it in for better melee stats. Generally speaking, these guys are pretty good, and also have a nice little shield, so that definitely helps them in a survivability tactic. Tomb Kings! Tomb Kings have one notable standout. Have you ever thought that Nagash didn't have enough of a presence in Arkan's little game? Well, not only does Arkan now get zombies, as well as just a bit more help, he gets the Nagashizar Guard. Now, when I said Pox Vermin were tanky, I was joking. The Nagashizar Guard are tanky. 100 models and unbreakable, with natural undead regen with the Dead Rise plus basic regen, and Tomb King tier regen. You will never kill them before their general healing cap reaches. 100 models, 70 melee defense, and 90 armor. If you ever think hold the line, love isn't always on time, oh baby, these guys hold the line. Now, Sartosa has its finest, and its finest happen to be quite expansive and incredibly fun. Now, Sartosa has its own unique version of the Crow's Nest Marksman, as opposed to the rest of the Vampire Coast. These guys are instead rowdy, and still cause fear, but are immune to psych. in place of it. Generally speaking, think of them as a slightly more skilled and defensive version of the Crow's Nest marksman of the basic Vampire Coast. As for the rest of Sartosa's units, I forgot about Corsairs, we have Corsairs. These guys... think of like every single elf unit put together, with martial murder giving them huge boosts while winning in combat and exemplifying their advantages, 70 melee attack, and a great balanced stat line. These guys are nuts and a blast to play with. Sartosa Militia. Oh man, these guys. Now... oh, wait. I have made a mistake. These guys, just like the Sartosa Free Company, are a nice little ranged and simple and easy option for Sartosa. They're a nice fill-in for zombies. But past that, not a whole lot to say. Boarders. Now, boarders are an incredible unit. With a mixture of pure heart and skill, hooking people's shields down to shoot them in melee, these guys have great synergy with the Vampire Coast. And if you're dealing with people who have these really pesky missile block chances, boarders are the way to go for you Vampire Coast players. Deck clearers. Now you may look at their stats right now and think, what's all that special about them? I mean, they have stock and a bit of missile resistance. But, I mean, what could possibly be interesting? Well, the black raised and raise the black. These guys wait for the perfect opportunity to strike and have a one-time moment where they lose their stock, but they have a hex of minus 25 leadership around themselves. Show the colors of Sartosa and watch your foes flee. The surprise tactics of pirates are true here, and if you're facing people who suffer from low leadership, trust me, they're gonna help. Barrow Legion. Quite a bit to talk about here. And I will also mention vessels just honorarily. Tormented are kind of like a different version of zombies, or skeletons. A bit better base stats, but not much else to say beyond that, other than the fact that they're, well, you know, tanky. Think of you as, well, tormenting them when you force them onto the battlefield. Unholy pilgrims. Similar to Tormented in a way, but with 30 less armor and a whole lot more melee attack. Far more of a frenzied damage dealer are these guys. Unworthy. Man. These guys are fun. They're a bit more balanced than the Unholy Pilgrims, but trade that in for 8 AP. Vessels. Armor-piercing, charging zombie cavalry. Like, do I honestly have to say any more to get you guys hooked on this unit? With their regeneration, these guys are just an absolute terror and a blast to play with. The rest of these vampires do get the encased, however. A charge defense against all-powerful bulwark of a unit that, while it only has 80 models, will deceive you with just how tanky it can really be. Vlad von Karstein is a bit more of a balanced individual in the fact that he can actually get Sylvanian levymen. While, generally speaking, less experienced, these Sylvanian levymen help to truly encapsulate the more farmer aspect of the Empire. They're like the melee free company that the Empire all get base. And while they do have immune to psychology from, well, hanging around with the undead all that time, nothing else about their stats is particularly noteworthy. Now, Warriors of Chaos and Decadent Host are technically two different factions, so I'll avoid them for now. I believe I have already given the Talcin Hawks a nice little honorary mention in the Wood Elf section, but if you need a refresher, I'll leave the stats there for you to pause if you so wish. And, well, That is all the unique subfaction units in the end times. Trust me, they're a blast, and I haven't even scratched the surface of unique subfactions that the Duke has created, like the Decadent Host and most recently, Skeggy. I mean, just to look at these guys and some of the incredible unit cards people have done for them, it's just amazing. I'd honestly recommend that if you want a bit more information, you can stop by the Duke's Discord server. Or just generally stop by the Steam page. We'll be waiting, and I can't wait to see you there. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this video.